Marcus opened the refrigerator at 6 in the morning and stared at its contents: half a gallon of milk, 3 eggs, and a mostly empty jar of peanut butter. Father's Day breakfast. His daughter Emma would wake up in an hour, excited to make him something special, and there was nothing to make. He'd spent his last $20 on her field trip permission slip yesterday. The rent was late. The utilities were about to be shut off. And his 8-year-old daughter thought today was about celebrating him. He closed the fridge quietly and leaned his forehead against the cool metal door. 3 years. It had been 3 years since his wife left, walked out the door with a suitcase and a man who could give her more than a construction worker's salary. She'd signed away custody without hesitation, and Marcus had been both relieved and devastated. Relieved because Emma wouldn't be torn between them. Devastated because he'd have to do this alone. And he was failing. The construction site he'd been working on had shut down 2 months ago. Budget cuts, the foreman said. We'll call you when the next project starts. Marcus had been looking for work every day since, but summer was slow. Nobody was building. His savings had run out 3 weeks ago. Unemployment barely covered rent. The rest, food, utilities, gas, he was juggling like a circus act, and he was about to drop all the balls. Before we continue, please tell us where in the world are you tuning in from. We love seeing how far our stories travel. Emma's alarm went off at 7. Marcus heard her feet hit the floor, heard her door creak open. She was trying to be quiet, sneaking around to surprise him. His heart cracked. He went to the living room and sat on the worn couch, trying to compose himself. Trying to figure out what to say. How to explain to his 8-year-old daughter that Father's Day breakfast wasn't happening this year. Daddy? Emma appeared in the doorway, still in her pajamas, holding a construction paper card decorated with glitter and stickers. You're supposed to stay in bed. Marcus managed a smile. Couldn't sleep, bug? Too excited for Father's Day. Emma's face lit up. I made you a card. Look. She thrust it at him, bouncing on her toes. Marcus took it carefully. The front said, World's Best Dad, in her careful handwriting, surrounded by hand-drawn hearts. Inside, thank you for being the best daddy ever. I'm making you special breakfast. Love, Emma. His throat tightened. It's beautiful, sweetheart. Best card I've ever gotten. Now go back to your room, Emma said, shooing him with her hands. I have to make breakfast, and it's a surprise. Emma, wait. Marcus set the card down carefully. Bug, I need to talk to you about breakfast. Her smile faltered. What's wrong? We're a little short on groceries this week. I was thinking maybe we could go out for breakfast instead. There's a diner downtown that does a Father's Day special. A lie. He couldn't afford a diner either. But he'd figure something out. He always did. But I wanted to make it myself, Emma said, her voice small. I have a whole plan. Mrs. Henderson at school helped me print recipes. I have everything written down. I know, baby. And that's so sweet. But maybe we could save your recipes for next week? When I go grocery shopping? Emma's face fell. She looked at the floor, at her bare feet on the worn carpet. It's because we don't have money, isn't it? Marcus felt like he'd been punched. Emma. It's okay, Daddy. Her voice was trying to be brave. I know things are hard. I know you're looking for work. We don't have to do breakfast. It's okay. No, it's not okay. Marcus pulled her onto his lap, held her tight. You planned something special, and I want you to be able to do it. I'm just... His voice broke. I'm sorry, Bug. I'm trying. I'm trying so hard, but everything costs money and I just don't have enough right now. Emma wrapped her arms around his neck. You're still the best daddy. Even without breakfast. Marcus held his 8-year-old daughter and felt like the world's biggest failure. She shouldn't have to understand financial struggle. She shouldn't have to be brave about missing out on things. She should just be a kid. Tell you what, he said, pulling back to look at her. Let's see what we can make with what we have. Maybe we can get creative. Emma nodded, trying to smile. Okay. I'll go check the kitchen. She slid off his lap and padded toward the kitchen. Marcus followed, dreading the moment when she'd open the fridge and see how empty it really was. But when they reached the kitchen, Emma stopped dead. "Daddy?" Marcus looked past her and froze. Their small kitchen table was covered in grocery bags. 4 of them, paper bags from the local store, packed full. Through the open tops, Marcus could see eggs, bacon, fresh fruit, pancake mix, orange juice. "What?" Marcus moved forward, Emma right behind him. "Daddy, is this for us?" Emma's voice was a whisper. Marcus pulled one bag closer. It was full of breakfast ingredients. The second bag held more groceries: bread, lunch meat, cheese, milk, peanut butter. The third was packed with canned goods and pasta. The fourth had fresh vegetables and chicken breasts. There was no note. No name. Nothing to explain where this came from or who had left it. "Someone brought us groceries," Emma breathed. "For Father's Day breakfast." Marcus's hands were shaking. He checked the bags again, looking for any clue. Nothing. Someone had left this on their doorstep, probably early this morning while they were still asleep. Someone who knew they needed help. "Who would do this?" he asked, his voice rough. "I don't know," Emma said, already pulling out ingredients. "But look, Daddy! We have everything for my recipes. We can make breakfast." She was beaming, all her earlier disappointment forgotten. Marcus felt tears slip down his face. Someone had done this. Someone had saved Father's Day. Someone had made sure his daughter could make her special breakfast. "Yeah, Bug," he managed. "Let's make breakfast." For the next hour, Marcus and Emma worked together in the kitchen. Emma directed operations like a tiny general, consulting her printed recipes and measuring ingredients with intense concentration. Marcus followed her instructions, cracking eggs and mixing batter, his heart still hammering from the shock. They made pancakes with chocolate chips, scrambled eggs with cheese, crispy bacon that filled the apartment with the best smell Marcus had experienced in weeks. Emma cut up strawberries with a butter knife under Marcus's watchful eye, arranging them on a plate like a work of art. When everything was ready, they set it all on the table, their cheap, scratch table that suddenly looked like it belonged in a restaurant. "Happy Father's Day, Daddy," Emma said, presenting the feast with a flourish. Marcus pulled her into a hug, unable to speak. Over her shoulder, he stared at the grocery bag still sitting on the counter. Someone had done this. Someone who knew they were struggling. Someone who cared enough to help anonymously. But who? They ate breakfast together, Emma chattering about her recipes and how the pancakes were almost as good as the ones at IHOP. Marcus made all the right responses, praising her cooking, but his mind was racing. The apartment building had 12 units. Marcus knew most of his neighbors by sight, but he wasn't close to anyone. He kept to himself, too exhausted after work and job hunting to socialize. Could it have been one of them? Mrs. Chinintubi was always friendly, but she was elderly and on a fixed income herself. The young couple in 3A kept odd hours and barely spoke to anyone. The family in 1C had 3 kids of their own and probably couldn't afford to help. After breakfast, while Emma was watching cartoons, Marcus went outside to the building's front steps. He looked up and down the street, as if he could spot the mysterious benefactor by sheer will. "Looking for something?" Marcus turned. His neighbor from 2C, David Park, was coming up the sidewalk with his own daughter, maybe 9 or 10 years old. They'd just come from the corner store, judging by the plastic bag David carried. "Just getting some air," Marcus said. "Happy Father's Day." "You too." David paused. "Everything okay? You look like you've seen a ghost." Marcus hesitated. "Someone left groceries on my doorstep this morning. A lot of groceries. No note, no name. I'm trying to figure out who." David's eyebrows rose. "Seriously? That's generous. Too generous. I don't know who would do something like that. Maybe someone who knew you needed it," David said gently. "Maybe someone who wanted to help without making it awkward. But who? I don't really know anyone here well enough for them to. Marcus stopped. Was it you? No, David said, and his tone was sincere. But I wish I'd thought of it. Times are tough for a lot of people right now. Maybe someone just wanted to pay it forward. His daughter tugged on his hand. Daddy, can we go home? I want to give you your present. Yeah, sweetheart. David nodded to Marcus. Enjoy your Father's Day, man. And don't overthink the groceries. Sometimes you just have to accept the good things. Marcus watched them go, then went back inside. Emma was still glued to the TV, her belly full for the first time in days. Marcus went to the kitchen and started putting away the remaining groceries. As he worked, he found himself overwhelmed by emotion. Someone had saved them today. Someone had known they were struggling and had stepped in quietly, anonymously, to help. It was the kindest thing anyone had done for him in years. But not knowing who made it harder somehow. He wanted to thank them. Wanted to understand why. Wanted to know how they'd known. Over the next week, Marcus became a detective. He paid attention to his neighbors in ways he never had before. Mrs. Chin brought him cookies she'd baked, but she seemed genuinely confused when he tried to thank her for everything. The couple in 3A avoided eye contact as usual. The family in 1C was dealing with their own crisis. Their car had broken down, and they were scrambling for rides. None of them seemed like the mysterious benefactor. Marcus also tried the local grocery store, asking if anyone had purchased a large order early that Sunday morning. The teenage clerk just shrugged. It's Father's Day weekend, man. Everyone bought a lot of groceries. Dead end after dead end. Emma, meanwhile, had moved on completely. She'd made her Father's Day breakfast. It had been perfect, and that was all that mattered. She talked about it at school, telling her teacher Mrs. Henderson how she'd made pancakes and eggs all by herself. Well, almost by myself, she corrected. Daddy helped with the stove. But I did all the measuring and mixing. Mrs. Henderson, a kind woman in her 50s, smiled at Marcus when he came to pick Emma up that week. Sounds like you had a wonderful Father's Day. We did, Marcus said. Thanks to some mysterious groceries that showed up on our doorstep. Something flickered in Mrs. Henderson's eyes. Mysterious groceries? Someone left 4 bags of food on our porch Sunday morning. No note, no name. Emma got to make her breakfast after all. Mrs. Henderson's smile softened. How wonderful. Sometimes blessings come from unexpected places. I just wish I knew who to thank. Maybe that's the point, Mrs. Henderson said gently. Maybe the gift was meant to be anonymous. Marcus left the school still puzzled. But as June turned into July, and he finally found a new job, not construction, but warehouse work that paid slightly better, he started to let it go. The groceries had saved them when they needed saving most. That was what mattered. Emma never forgot, though. She talked about the magic groceries, like they were something out of a fairy tale. Someone had known they needed help and had helped them. She wanted to do the same someday. When I'm grown up, she announced one evening at dinner, I'm going to leave groceries for people who need them. Like someone did for us. That's a beautiful idea, Bug, Marcus said. But I'll leave a note, Emma added. So they know someone cares. Marcus smiled. They knew someone cared, sweetheart. The groceries proved that. 3 months after Father's Day, Marcus was doing better. The week after Father's Day was the hardest Marcus had faced in months. Not because of money, though that was still tight. But because he couldn't stop thinking about who had helped them. Who had known they were struggling. Who had cared enough to leave 4 bags of groceries without asking for recognition or thanks. Every time he saw a neighbor in the hallway, he wondered. Every time someone smiled at Emma in the parking lot, he analyzed their expression. Was it you? Did you know? Did you see how desperate we were? The not knowing ate at him in ways he didn't expect. On Tuesday, he ran into Mrs. Chen from 2B at the mailboxes. She was struggling with her key, her arthritic hands making simple tasks difficult. Let me help, Marcus offered, taking her key and opening her mailbox for her. Thank you, dear, Mrs. Chen said, collecting her mail. How are you and Emma doing? We're good. Really good, actually. Marcus hesitated. Mrs. Chen, did you happen to see anyone at our door early Sunday morning? Father's Day? Sunday morning? No, I'm afraid I don't get up that early anymore. Why do you ask? Someone left groceries. I'm trying to figure out who. Mrs. Chen's face softened. What a blessing. But sometimes, Marcus, blessings are meant to remain mysteries. Perhaps whoever helped you wanted it that way. But I want to thank them. Then thank them by accepting the help with grace. And perhaps, when you're able, help someone else the same way. Marcus thought about that conversation for days. Maybe Mrs. Chen was right. Maybe the point wasn't to know who had helped, but to accept that someone had. To let it change him rather than just solve a temporary problem. But accepting things had never been Marcus's strength. At work, or rather, in his desperate search for work, Marcus hit dead end after dead end. Construction sites that had promised to call never did. The temp agency had nothing available. Even the big box stores weren't hiring for summer. One afternoon, after his 15th rejected application that week, Marcus sat in his car in a parking lot and let himself break down. Just for 5 minutes. 5 minutes to feel the weight of it all. The empty bank account. The late rent notice. The knowledge that the groceries, generous as they were, would only last so long. Then he wiped his face, started the car, and went to pick up Emma from the community center's summer program. Because that's what parents did. They broke down in private and stayed strong in public. Emma was waiting outside with her counselor, a young woman named Jessica who always seemed genuinely happy to see the kids. Mr. Reed! Jessica called as he approached. Emma had a great day today. She won the art contest. Emma held up a painting of their apartment building, complete with stick figures of Marcus and herself in front. I made us, Daddy. It's beautiful, Bug. Marcus took the painting carefully. We'll hang it on the fridge. Mr. Reed, Jessica said quietly, while Emma ran back to show her friends the painting one more time. I wanted to ask. Are you still looking for work? Marcus felt his face heat with embarrassment. Had Emma told people they were struggling? Yeah, still looking. Construction's slow right now. My uncle owns a warehouse. They're looking for people. It's not glamorous, loading and unloading, but it pays decent and it's steady work. Want me to get you his number? Marcus felt something loosen in his chest. Are you serious? Yes. Absolutely yes. Let me text him right now. Tell him Marcus Reed will be calling. Jessica pulled out her phone. He's a good guy. Treats his workers well. Benefits after 3 months, overtime available if you want it. Jessica, I don't know how to thank you. She looked up from her phone, smiled. You thank me by being a good employee. And by keeping that daughter of yours as wonderful as she is. She's one of my favorites, don't tell the others. The warehouse job came through 2 days later. Marcus started the following Monday. The work was physical, demanding but honest. He could do this. He could provide. His first paycheck, small because it only covered 1 week, went entirely to the electric bill. The second paycheck covered part of the late rent. The third started to feel like breathing room. But even as things improved, Marcus couldn't shake the memory of Father's Day. Of opening that fridge to nothing. Of the terror that he'd have to disappoint his daughter on what should have been a special day. Of the miracle of those grocery bags. He started paying more attention to the people around him. Really paying attention. To the single mom in 3C who looked exhausted every time he saw her. To the elderly man in 1A who walked to the corner store every day because he didn't have a car. To the young couple in 2D who he'd overheard arguing about bills through their thin walls. Everyone was struggling with something. Everyone was carrying burdens they didn't talk about. Just like he had been. Emma, meanwhile, was thriving in ways that broke Marcus's heart and healed it simultaneously. She talked about the miracle groceries, constantly, weaving them into a story she told at camp, at the park, to anyone who would listen. Someone knew we needed help. she'd say, her voice full of wonder. And they helped us without even telling us their name. That's real magic, isn't it? Other parents would smile and nod, probably thinking it was a cute childhood story. But Marcus heard the deeper message Emma was absorbing. People help each other. Kindness exists. You're not alone even when you feel alone. One evening in late July, Marcus and Emma were walking home from the corner store, carrying a gallon of milk and a loaf of bread, when they saw it. The young couple from 2D, Melissa and James, sitting on the building's front steps. Melissa was crying. James had his head in his hands. Marcus almost kept walking. Not my business. Don't intrude. But Emma stopped. Are you okay? She asked, her voice small but concerned. Melissa looked up, wiped her eyes quickly. Oh, sweetie. Yes. We're fine. Just having a hard day. Sometimes talking helps, Emma said, with the wisdom of a child who'd learned that lesson herself. My daddy says when things are hard, you have to tell someone. Otherwise it gets too heavy to carry alone. Marcus felt his throat tighten. When had he said that to her? He couldn't remember, but apparently she'd been listening. James looked at Marcus. Your daughter is very kind. She is, Marcus agreed. And she's right. Sometimes things are lighter when you share them. We don't mean to intrude, but if you need anything. Car broke down, James said, his voice flat. Can't afford to fix it. Can't get to work without it. Can't make money without work. It's a mess. Marcus knew that mess. Had lived it recently. How much for the repair? 400. Might as well be 4 million. Marcus thought about his next paycheck. Thought about the modest savings he'd managed to rebuild. Thought about 4 bags of groceries appearing on his doorstep when he had nothing. Let me make a call, Marcus heard himself say. I know a mechanic who owes me a favor. Maybe he can help. It was a lie. He didn't know a mechanic. But he knew he had $300 saved. And he knew that Jessica from the community center had mentioned her boyfriend was a mechanic. Maybe between the two of them, they could figure something out. 2 days later, James's car was fixed. The bill came to $200, thanks to Jessica's boyfriend cutting them a deal and Marcus covering half. James tried to refuse, tried to insist he'd pay Marcus back, but Marcus wouldn't hear it. Someone helped me once, Marcus said simply. When I needed it most. Consider this pass forward. I don't know what to say. Don't say anything. Just help someone else someday. When you can. That's how this works. Emma watched this exchange with bright, understanding eyes. That night she asked Marcus about it. Daddy, was that like our miracle groceries? You doing that for James and Melissa? Sort of, bug. Are you going to do it again? Help other people. Marcus pulled her onto his lap. When I can, yes. Because someone helped us, and it changed everything. Not just because we had food, but because it showed us we weren't alone. That someone out there cared. I want to help people too, Emma said seriously. When I have money. I want to be like the grocery miracle person. You will, sweetheart. I know you will. August brought Emma's 9th birthday. Marcus had saved enough to take her to the arcade and buy a small cake. Nothing extravagant, but enough. They invited 3 of her friends from the summer program, and the apartment was filled with giggles and chaos for a glorious afternoon. As Marcus was cleaning up after, putting paper plates in the trash and finding tiny pieces of confetti everywhere, Emma came and stood beside him. This was the best birthday, Daddy. Yeah? Better than when you were 5 and we went to that fancy pizza place? That had been before the divorce, when money wasn't so tight. Way better. Because I could tell you were happy. Not worried. Emma looked up at him with those 2 perceptive eyes. You used to look worried all the time. Now you smile more. Marcus knelt down to her level. You know what made me less worried? Realizing I don't have to do everything alone. People help each other. Like someone helped us. Like we helped James and Melissa. That's how we get through hard times. As a team, Emma said, clearly repeating something she'd learned. Exactly. As a team. A big team of people who care about each other. September arrived with its back-to-school preparations. Marcus, now 3 months into his warehouse job, had been promoted to a team leader position. Modest raise, but every dollar helped. They could afford school supplies this year without panic. Could buy Emma new shoes that actually fit. The night before school started, Emma laid out her outfit with meticulous care. First day of 3rd grade. Mrs. Henderson's class. Emma had been excited about Mrs. Henderson all summer, because her friend Kayla said Mrs. Henderson was the best teacher in the whole school. She's really nice, Emma had reported. And she does fun projects. And she doesn't yell. Marcus was just grateful for a teacher who gave a damn. In his experience, good teachers were worth their weight in gold. The first week of school, Marcus went to the parent orientation night. Mrs. Henderson was exactly as Emma had described, warm, enthusiastic, clearly passionate about teaching. She talked about her philosophy of education, about seeing the whole child, not just the student. I believe every child deserves to feel valued, Mrs. Henderson said to the gathered parents. Every child deserves to know that someone is in their corner, rooting for them, believing in them. That's what I try to provide. After the formal presentation, parents mingled and talked to Mrs. Henderson individually. Marcus waited until the crowd thinned. Mr. Reed, Mrs. Henderson said, shaking his hand. Emma is a delight. Bright, curious, kind to the other students. Thank you. She's been excited about your class. She mentioned you work at Patterson Warehouse now. How's that going? Marcus was surprised she knew. It's good. Steady work. Much better than the construction site closures. I'm glad. Mrs. Henderson's eyes were kind. It's not easy, doing this alone. Single parenting. You should be proud of the job you're doing. Some days I feel like I'm barely keeping my head above water. That's still swimming, Mrs. Henderson said gently. And Marcus? If you ever need anything, resources, support, whatever, please ask. That's what we're here for. We're a community. Marcus left that meeting feeling lighter somehow. Seen. Understood. Like maybe he wasn't as alone as he sometimes felt. October brought Halloween, another expense Marcus had worried about. But Emma was resourceful. She decided to make her costume from things they already had, a ghost made from an old white bedsheet and a marker. It's classic, she announced. And it's free. Win-win. Marcus helped her cut eye holes and draw a spooky face. When she wore it trick-or-treating with her friends, she was the happiest ghost he'd ever seen. That night, after Emma was asleep, candy sorted and counted, Marcus sat at his kitchen table and wrote a letter he'd been composing in his head for months. To whoever left groceries on Father's Day, I don't know who you are. I've tried to figure it out, asked around, paid attention to my neighbors. I don't know if I'll ever know your identity. But I want you to know what your kindness meant. It wasn't just about the food, though that was desperately needed. It was about hope. About knowing that someone out there saw us struggling and cared enough to help. You gave my daughter a chance to make Father's Day special. You gave me a chance to not feel like a complete failure as a parent. You showed us that kindness still exists in the world. That people help each other, even when they don't have to. I've tried to pass that forward. To help others the way you helped us. I don't know if I'm doing it right, but I'm trying. Thank you. From the bottom of my heart, thank you. You changed our lives. Marcus Reed, Apartment 3B. He folded the letter, put it in an envelope, and taped it to the building's community board in the lobby. Maybe whoever it was would see it. Maybe they'd know their kindness hadn't gone unnoticed or unappreciated. The next morning, the letter was gone. Marcus didn't know if someone had taken it down, or if the mysterious benefactor had claimed it. But it didn't matter. He'd said what he needed to say. November arrived with Thanksgiving preparations. The warehouse was giving out turkeys to employees, and Marcus claimed his gratefully. Emma helped him plan the menu: turkey, mashed potatoes, green beans, rolls. Simple but abundant. Can we invite someone? Emma asked. Someone who doesn't have anywhere to go. Marcus thought about it. Like who? Mrs. Chen from downstairs. I don't think she has family. And maybe James and Melissa? They've been really nice since you helped with their car. His daughter had a heart bigger than the sky. Okay, Bug. Let's invite them. Thanksgiving dinner in their small apartment was crowded but joyful. Mrs. Chen brought dumplings from her childhood in Taiwan. James and Melissa brought a homemade pie. Emma insisted on making place cards for everyone. As they sat around the table, Marcus felt overwhelming gratitude. Not just for the food, though that was significant, but for the people. For the community they built. For the connections that had formed through hardship and help. I'm thankful for my daddy, Emma announced when it was her turn. Because he works really hard and he never gives up. Even when things are really, really hard. Marcus felt tears prick his eyes. Across the table, Mrs. Chen smiled at him knowingly. December brought the revelation. 3 months after Father's Day, just as the original story described, Marcus attended the back-to-school event at the community center and learned the truth from Mrs. Henderson. Not great, but better. The warehouse job was steady. He'd caught up on rent. The utilities stayed on. They still couldn't afford much, but they could afford enough. One Saturday, Marcus took Emma to the local community center. They were having a back-to-school event, giving away free school supplies and clothes to families who needed them. Marcus wasn't too proud anymore. If something was free and Emma needed it, he'd take it. While Emma was in the children's area picking out a new backpack, Marcus stood in line for supplies. That's when he saw her, Mrs. Henderson, Emma's teacher, volunteering at one of the tables. She looked up, caught his eye, and smiled. Marcus! How are you? Doing okay, he said, moving through the line. Better than June anyway. I'm glad to hear that. She handed him a package of notebooks and pencils. Emma's such a sweet girl. You're doing a wonderful job with her. Trying my best. Mrs. Henderson hesitated, then glanced around to make sure no one was listening. Can I tell you something? Off the record? Marcus felt his heart skip. Of course. That morning, Father's Day, Emma had been talking about making you breakfast for 2 weeks. She was so excited. Mrs. Henderson's voice dropped. But she told me you might not have the groceries for it. She was trying so hard to be brave about it, but I could see how disappointed she was. Marcus's throat tightened. She told you that? Not directly. But I'm a teacher. I've been doing this for 25 years. I know when a child is worried about money. I know when a family is struggling. Mrs. Henderson met his eyes. I hope the groceries helped. It took Marcus a moment to process. It was you. Me and a few other teachers at the school, Mrs. Henderson said quietly. We pulled some money. Wanted to make sure Emma could make her Father's Day breakfast. Wanted to make sure you had food beyond just that one meal. Marcus couldn't speak. He just stared at this woman who'd helped them, who'd known they needed it, who'd made sure his daughter's Father's Day plan could happen. Why didn't you tell me? He finally managed. Because it wasn't about me. It was about Emma. About making sure she got to do something nice for her dad. Mrs. Henderson smiled. And because sometimes accepting help is easier when you don't have to look the person in the eye and say thank you. Sometimes anonymous is kinder. Marcus felt tears building. I've been trying to figure out who it was for 3 months. And now you know. But Marcus? Mrs. Henderson touched his arm gently. Don't feel bad about needing help. We all need it sometimes. The only difference is some of us are lucky enough to have people who notice and care. Thank you, Marcus said, his voice breaking. You have no idea what that meant. What it still means. I think I do. Mrs. Henderson's eyes were kind. I was a single mom once, too. 20 years ago, before I got my teaching degree. Someone helped me when I needed it most. I'm just passing it forward. Emma came running up then, clutching a purple backpack and a package of gel pens. Daddy, look what I got! Can I really keep all of this? Yes, Bug. It's yours. Emma looked at Mrs. Henderson. Hi, Mrs. Henderson. Are you helping today? I am, sweetheart. Looks like you found everything you need. I'm ready for third grade, Emma announced proudly. That night, after Emma was asleep, Marcus sat on his couch and thought about Mrs. Henderson's words. Passing it forward. That's what she'd called it. Someone had helped her 20 years ago, and now she was helping others. Not expecting thanks or recognition. Just helping because she could. He thought about the 4 bags of groceries. About Emma's joy at making Father's Day breakfast. About the relief of opening the fridge and seeing it full. About the way it had changed everything, if only for a few weeks. He wanted to do that for someone else someday. When he was on his feet. When he had enough. He wanted to be the person who noticed when someone was struggling and quietly helped without making it awkward or shameful. 2 years later, Marcus was doing well. Really well. He'd been promoted at the warehouse, then headhunted by another company for a supervisor position. The pay was almost double what he made in construction. They'd moved to a better apartment in a better neighborhood. Emma was thriving in 4th grade. And Marcus remembered. He remembered what it felt like to open an empty fridge on Father's Day. To wonder how to explain poverty to an 8-year-old. To feel like a failure as a parent. So when he overheard one of his warehouse workers, Tom, mention that his daughter's birthday was coming up but money was tight this month, Marcus paid attention. The next morning, Tom arrived at work to find a gift card to the local toy store in his locker. $200. No name. Just a note. Happy birthday to your daughter. From someone who understands. Marcus watched from across the warehouse as Tom found it. Watched his face crumple with relief and gratitude. Watched him look around, trying to figure out who'd done it. Marcus didn't say anything. Didn't take credit. Just like Mrs. Henderson hadn't. It became a pattern. When Marcus heard about someone struggling, he found ways to help. Groceries left on doorsteps. Gift cards appearing in lockers. Cash and envelopes slipped under doors. Always anonymous. Always enough to make a difference, but not so much it felt like charity. Emma noticed. She was 10 now, smart and observant. Daddy, did you leave those groceries for the Johnsons? She asked one Saturday. The Johnsons lived 2 doors down, a young family that had just had twins. Marcus had heard the mother telling someone at the mailboxes that they were overwhelmed and broke. Why would you think that? Marcus asked, not confirming or denying. Because that's what someone did for us. Remember? The magic groceries? Emma looked at him seriously. You're doing what you said. Passing it forward. Marcus smiled. If someone was doing that, I'd say they probably remember what it's like to need help. And they want to make sure other people get that same help when they need it. It's nice, Emma said. It made us feel like someone cared. Even though we didn't know who. Yeah, Bug. It did. 3 years after the Father's Day groceries, Marcus got a call from Mrs. Henderson. She was retiring from teaching and wanted to invite some of her former students and their parents to a small celebration at the school. Marcus and Emma went. The classroom was decorated with photos from Mrs. Henderson's 28-year career. Hundreds of students smiling back from the walls. During her speech, Mrs. Henderson talked about why she'd become a teacher. I wanted to make a difference, she said. Not just in academics, but in lives. I wanted to be the person who noticed when a child was struggling, when a family needed help. And I wanted to teach my students that we help each other. That's how communities survive. After the ceremony, as people were mingling, Mrs. Henderson pulled Marcus aside. I wanted to tell you something, she said. Do you remember those groceries? Every day, Marcus said. I think about them every time I help someone else. Mrs. Henderson smiled. That's what I hoped. See, I learned that lesson from my own teacher 30 years ago. She helped me when I was struggling. I asked her why, and she said, because someone helped me once. Now it's your turn. And someday, it'll be someone else's turn. It's a chain, Marcus. An endless chain of kindness. I'm trying to keep it going, Marcus said. I know. Emma told me. Mrs. Henderson's eyes twinkled. She's very proud of her dad. Says you're a superhero who helps people in secret. Marcus felt his face heat. She talks too much. She talks just enough. Mrs. Henderson squeezed his arm. Keep doing what you're doing. The world needs more people like you. That night, Marcus tucked Emma into bed. She was 12 now, almost too old for tucking in, but she still let him do it. Mrs. Henderson is nice, Emma said sleepily. I'm sad she's retiring. She's had a good career. Helped a lot of people. Like us. Yeah, Bug. Like us. Emma was quiet for a moment. Daddy, why do you help people without telling them it's you? Marcus sat on the edge of her bed. Because sometimes it's easier to accept help when you don't have to feel embarrassed about it. When I got those groceries on Father's Day, I felt grateful, but I also felt ashamed that we needed them. If I'd known who left them right away, I might have felt too embarrassed to accept them. But you wouldn't have been mean about it. No, but I might have tried to refuse. Or I might have felt like I owed them something. Anonymous help is cleaner. It's just kindness, with no strings attached. I want to help people like that when I grow up, Emma said. When I have my own money. You will, Bug. I know you will. Will you tell me someday? About the people you help? Marcus smiled. Maybe. When you're older. For now, let's just say there are a lot of people out there who remember what it's like to struggle. And when they can, they help others who are going through the same thing. Like a secret club. Exactly like a secret club. 5 years after Father's Day, Marcus got a letter in the mail. It was from Tom, his former coworker from the warehouse. Tom had moved to a different job a few years ago, and they'd lost touch. The letter read, Marcus, I don't know if you'll remember me, but I worked with you at Patterson Warehouse. 5 years ago, someone left a gift card in my locker for my daughter's birthday. At the time, we were barely making it. My wife had been laid off, and we were struggling to keep food on the table, let alone buy birthday presents. That gift card meant everything. It meant my little girl got the doll she'd been wanting. It meant she felt loved and celebrated on her birthday. It meant I didn't have to see disappointment in her eyes. I never found out who left it, but I've thought about it often over the years. Recently, I was in a position to help someone else who was struggling. I left groceries on their doorstep, anonymously, the way someone once helped me. And when I did, I thought of you. I don't know if it was you who left that gift card, but I wanted you to know that whoever it was started something. Started a chain of kindness that I'm now part of. Thank you, whoever you were. And if it was you, Marcus, thank you especially. You changed my daughter's birthday. You changed me. Best, Tom. Marcus read the letter 3 times, tears streaming down his face. Tom had passed it forward. Just like Mrs. Henderson had passed it forward to Marcus. Just like Marcus had passed it forward to Tom. The chain continued. He showed the letter to Emma, who was now 13 and preparing for high school. See? She said, reading it. That's what I was talking about. Secret Kindness Club. Yeah, Marcus said. That's exactly what it is. I want to join officially, Emma announced. I got a job at the ice cream shop. I'm making my own money now. I want to help someone. Marcus pulled his daughter into a hug. You've been part of it your whole life, Bug. But yeah, let's find someone who needs help. They started together. Small things at first. Emma bought school supplies for a girl in her class whose family had fallen on hard times. Marcus helped pay for car repairs for a coworker who couldn't afford to miss work. Together, they left groceries for an elderly neighbor who was struggling with medical bills. Always anonymous. Always with no expectation of thanks. Always with the hope that someday, the person they helped would help someone else. 10 years after Father's Day, Emma graduated from college. She'd studied social work, determined to help families like theirs had been. At her graduation party, Marcus gave her a gift, a leather journal. Inside the front cover, he'd written, Emma, 10 years ago, on Father's Day, Someone left groceries on our doorstep when we had nothing. That act of kindness changed our lives. Not just because we had food, but because it taught us something important: we're not alone. When we struggle, there are people who care. People who help. People who pass forward the kindness they once received. You've grown up seeing this chain of kindness. Now it's your turn to be one of the links. Use this journal to record the people you help. Not for recognition, but to remember. To remember that every act of kindness matters. That every time you help someone, you're continuing a story that started long before you and will continue long after. I'm so proud of the woman you've become. Love, Dad. Emma read it through tears. Thank you, Daddy. For everything. For showing me how to be kind. For teaching me that helping others is the most important thing we can do. That night, alone in his house, Marcus pulled out his own journal. The one he'd been keeping for 10 years. Page after page of anonymous help. Families he'd assisted. People whose lives he'd touched in small ways. He added a new entry. Gave Emma her journal today. The chain continues. Mrs. Henderson started it for us. We passed it to Tom. Tom passed it to someone else. Now Emma will pass it forward again. This is how we change the world. Not with grand gestures, but with quiet kindness. One bag of groceries at a time. One gift card at a time. One act of anonymous generosity at a time. Sarah would be proud of the man I've become. The father I am. The person who learned that accepting help isn't weakness, it's human. And giving help isn't about recognition, it's about compassion. 10 years ago, I opened an empty fridge on Father's Day and felt like a failure. I had no idea that moment would become the defining moment of my life. The moment that taught me what really matters. Mrs. Henderson, wherever you are, thank you. You saved more than just one Father's Day. You saved me. Marcus closed the journal and looked at the photo on his mantel. Emma at 8 years old, holding her handmade Father's Day card. The morning everything changed. He'd never forgotten that feeling. Opening the fridge to nothing. The shame, the fear, the defeat. And then the miracle. The groceries appearing like magic. The relief. The gratitude. The overwhelming sense that someone cared. That's what he wanted other people to feel. Not just the relief of receiving help, but the knowledge that someone out there cared enough to give it. That they weren't alone in their struggle. The chain of kindness continued. From teacher to student. From parent to child. From stranger to stranger. An endless circle of anonymous generosity that changed lives in ways the givers would never fully know. Because that was the secret Mrs. Henderson had understood. The best kind of help is the kind that asks for nothing in return. The kind that doesn't embarrass or obligate. The kind that simply says, I see you. I understand. And I care. 10 years after 4 bags of groceries appeared on his doorstep, Marcus understood that message perfectly. And he'd spend the rest of his life passing it forward, one anonymous act of kindness at a time. If this story touched your heart the way it touched mine, please don't let it end here. Let it remind you that kindness still matters, compassion still changes lives, and hope is never wasted. Subscribe and be part of our Pure Moment Stories family, where every story heals quietly and stays with you. And if this moment moved you, share it. Because sometimes sharing hope is the kindest thing we can do.